Steven Pinker, Enlightenment Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress. Welcome to the enlightening journey through Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now, The Case for Reason, Science, Humanism, and Progress. This book dives deep into the extraordinary period in European history called the Enlightenment, which radically shaped the future of Western society. As you read through this summary, you will explore the profound influence of four key themes: reason, science, humanism, and progress, which collectively challenged pre-existing beliefs rooted in ignorance and superstition. From the abolition of slavery to the leaps in life expectancy, you'll discover the positive impact of the Enlightenment, debunking modern-day claims that we are in a period of decline.
Unraveling the Enlightenment Era. The Enlightenment, also known as the Age of Reason, was a transformative period in European history, emerging in the first half of the 18th century. This era provided a much-needed reprieve from the ignorance, fear, and superstition that had previously gripped society. The Enlightenment comprised four key themes: reason, science, humanism, and progress. The emphasis on reason led to a questioning of previously unchallenged practices, such as slavery, and helped dismantle them. A growing focus on scientific knowledge allowed for the development of neuroscience, psychology, and cultural anthropology, paving the way for humanism. This secular approach enabled people to understand and respect one another beyond religious constraints, while also providing a moral framework to reject destructive behaviors like genocide. Humanism gave rise to cosmopolitanism, a modern value system that rejects tribalism and promotes equality among all individuals, regardless of their country of origin. Overcoming entropy through diversity. At the dawn of the 19th century, the establishment of global trade and diverse connections contributed to a more resilient system against entropy. Entropy, described by the second law of thermodynamics, posits that closed systems will gradually fall apart due to outside forces. Critics argue that society is in decline as reason is disregarded and chaos reigns. However, organisms are not closed systems and can fight entropy by absorbing energy from various sources, increasing order. Hard data shows that various measures of the good life continue to improve, exhibiting the ongoing fight against entropy in the enduring influence of the Enlightenment. In the early 1800s, the formation of global trade networks and diverse interconnectivity laid the foundation for a resilient system capable of withstanding entropy. Entropy, as defined by the second law of thermodynamics, implies that closed systems will inevitably disintegrate under the influence of external forces. Sandcastles crumble under the wind, tide, and human activity because they are closed systems. Entropy affects humanity and the universe as a whole, leading some to claim that society is in decline. Critics argue that reason is losing its foothold amid prevalent war, violence, crime, and a rise in tribal mentalities. However, this bleak worldview has significant flaws. Organisms, unlike closed systems, can resist entropy. This ability to defy entropy is among the reasons the Enlightenment has persisted and thrived. By drawing energy from a multitude of sources, organisms can maintain or even increase order, rather than succumb to entropy. Examining factual data spanning the last century reveals that various aspects of our world are experiencing continued improvement. From life expectancy and crime rates to happiness levels, wealth, and overall quality of life, just about every quantifiable aspect of living the good life has improved and shows no indication of stopping. Consequently, as we examine these upward trends across diverse indicators, we gain a clearer understanding of humanity's ongoing battle against entropy and the lasting impact of the Enlightenment. Unraveling the longevity revolution. The global life expectancy has dramatically increased since the mid-18th century, largely attributed to a decrease in child mortality rate, advances in healthcare, and near eradication of famine. These improvements can be appreciated across socioeconomic classes, with more people living longer and healthier lives than ever before. With a stronger emphasis on science and knowledge, progress has been made to ensure that such benefits reach a broader segment of the global population. At the dawn of the Enlightenment era, the average human life expectancy was a mere 29 years. This figure was surprisingly lower than that of our hunter-gatherer forebears, who are believed to have lived up to around 32.5 years. However, since then, an incredible transformation has swept the globe, leading to greater longevity for people worldwide. One of the most significant driving forces behind this change is the reduction in child mortality rates. A steep decline in infant deaths helps to contribute to higher life expectancy figures, alongside increased survival rates for mothers during childbirth. As a result, people of all ages live longer lives than their ancestors enjoyed. For instance, a British 30-year-old in 1845 could only expect to live for an additional 30 years, whereas a person of the same age in 2011 would likely enjoy 52 more years on this planet. Even 80-year-olds in the present day can anticipate roughly 9 more years of life, a remarkable jump from a mere 5 years in the past. These longevity advancements are not unique to developed nations. In Ethiopia, a 10-year-old in 1950 could expect to live for 34 more years, while today, that same age group can hope for an additional 51 years. Alongside these developments, future generations can expect to encounter fewer health issues, thanks to modern medicine's capabilities to eliminate diseases such as smallpox and measles. Previously, infections posed a significant threat to everyone, regardless of wealth or social standing. The value placed on science and knowledge in the present day underscores the importance of public health measures, such as handwashing and sanitation. Lastly, the threat of famine has also sharply diminished, courtesy of advancements in agricultural science. In the 19th century, children in countries like Sweden faced the risk of starvation, while 35% of the world was malnourished just 45 years ago. Thanks to research and innovation, fewer people go hungry, even as the world's population continues to grow. Together, these aspects shed light on how progress in healthcare, agriculture, and public health practices have shaped a global shift, leading to better health and increased life expectancy across the globe. Eradicating inequality through growth. Long before the Enlightenment, the world's poor were subjected to grueling labor with minimal compensation. With 90% of the global population in extreme poverty in 1820, the principles of the Enlightenment ignited a shift. Newfound prosperity grew rapidly as global income tripled between 1820 and 1900, due, in part, to nations replacing religious differences with trade for mutual benefit. The world income tripled yet again between 1900 and 1950 and continued accelerating, with South Korea and Singapore experiencing rapid wealth increase, and countries like Vietnam, Rwanda, and El Salvador doubling their income every 18 years. As this growth occurred, anticipated inequality surged before finally declining as predicted by the Kuznets curve. Developed countries began investing more in social programs to further reduce poverty, exemplifying Wagner's law. Nowadays, nations spend an average of 22% on social welfare, positively impacting the lives of the once impoverished. Declining violence through progress. Despite ongoing conflicts like the Syrian war, global violence has significantly decreased over time. The Enlightenment's emphasis on problem-solving has guided the vision of organizations such as the United Nations, which has been influential in resolving disputes and maintaining international relations. As more nations prosper, the incentives for uprisings and civil wars are diminished, creating a more stable and peaceful world. In today's world, it may seem like we're faced with an overwhelming amount of violence and conflict, especially when considering the tragic events in Syria. However, taking a broader view of history reveals that we are actually experiencing a decline in worldwide warfare. Contrary to popular belief, the number of refugees and displaced people today is not unprecedented. Historical events such as the 1971 Bangladesh War, India's border shift in 1947, and World War II have affected millions more lives. The Enlightenment era brought with it an emphasis on problem-solving and rational thinking, and these values have continued to shape our approach to conflict resolution. The formation of the United Nations in 1945, along with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, marked significant achievements in promoting peace and stability. These organizations, bolstered by trade and commerce agreements, have contributed to the overall decline of violence in the 21st century. Over the last 70 years, wars have become increasingly rare. By 2009, a number of civil wars ended, including conflicts in Angola, Chad, Peru, and Sri Lanka. As wealth grows in many nations, the likelihood of militant groups gaining support decreases. Prosperity allows for improved healthcare and education, which in turn reduce the chances of civil unrest. Data from around the world reflects this trend, demonstrating that as prosperity increases, incentives for violent crime and war diminish. This overall decline in global violence lends hope to a more harmonious and peaceful future. Democracy's enlightened journey. In the 1970s, democracy seemed to be at odds with prevailing beliefs, but by the end of the century upheld as an alternative to historically destructive and tyrannical reigns. Stemming from Enlightenment ideology, democracy offers a system that fosters economic growth, provides better education, and reduces instances of genocide. As a result of global democratization, racist and sexist attitudes have been challenged, leading to modern societies with fewer discriminatory laws in place. In the troubled era of the 1970s, democracy appeared to be a relic of the past, with leaders like West Germany's Chancellor Willy Brandt deeming it a peculiar holdover with no future. Unbeknownst to them, just around the corner awaited an unprecedented push for democracy, with country after country embracing this Enlightenment-inspired form of governance. At its core, democracy emerged from a desire to break away from brutal regimes that fostered tyranny, human suffering, and violence. Individuals sought to leave behind the harrowing experiences of slavery, torture, and public mutilation for expressing dissent. By also preventing unstable leadership, democracy offered a solution to avoid scenarios like the bloody revolutions witnessed in early 20th century China and Mexico. Throughout the years, democracy has demonstrated its effectiveness in promoting economic growth, preventing genocides, and improving educational standards. As of 2015, the world counted 103 democratic nations, a stark contrast to the mere 12 during the fascist uprisings of the 1920s. The rise of democracy has not only propelled the Enlightenment agenda but has also promoted cosmopolitanism, leading to a reduction in racist and sexist attitudes. In an increasingly interconnected world, people are exposed to diverse ideas and forced to confront the inadequacies of discrimination. Consequently, fewer nations today have racial or ethnic discriminatory laws compared to in 1950. Furthermore, except for Vatican City, women now have the right to vote everywhere where men can, highlighting the immense progress spurred by democracy's march forward. Unveiling our irrational fears. Though our daily news seems to be filled with horrifying stories, a closer examination of the facts reveals that our fears may be misplaced. In the case of terrorism, statistics show an American is more likely to be killed by lightning or a bee sting than a terrorist. Likewise, AI, while possessing advanced capabilities, poses less of a threat than we often believe. The reason we perceive these threats as pressing is due to biased media and sensationalist reporting. In reality, as humans, we continue to create safety measures and contingency plans that mitigate potential dangers. Our world is brimming with concerns seemingly looming over us. Terrorism is one such concern, with many Americans believing that ISIS poses a direct threat to the nation. A 2016 poll found the majority of Americans perceive that danger. Yet, when inspecting the facts, an American has a higher chance of being killed by lightning or a bee sting than by a terrorist. Even when considering global statistics, people are 125 times more likely to die due to an accident than at the hands of a terrorist. This skewed perception arises from the media's love for negative bias and sensationalism, which amplify the gravity of each crisis. Recent advancements in artificial intelligence, AI, have received similar treatment. High-profile figures like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have voiced concerns, but there is little evidence to suggest that AI's achievements in tasks such as driving or playing board games pose an existential threat. Contrary to apocalyptic scenarios, technology's progression tends to coincide with an increase in safety measures. There are multiple levels of monitoring and fail-safes to prevent mishaps. Furthermore, if humans are capable of inventing groundbreaking AI technologies, they undoubtedly have the foresight to devise contingency plans for potential dangers. By examining the facts, we can see that our fears are often far larger than the reality, and that we are more prepared to handle potential threats than we give ourselves credit for. Debunking science misconceptions. Science, a pillar of the Enlightenment, often faces unjust blame and misinformation. Contrary to popular belief, science doesn't have an agenda and isn't responsible for atrocities like the Holocaust. Hitler's Nazi regime was, in fact, anti-science. Moreover, the Aryan myth, which fueled his actions, directly contradicts with Darwinism. Similarly, eugenics, founded by Francis Galton, initially aimed at promoting procreation among talented individuals, not the sterilization of unfit people. As time progresses, science continues to be attacked by those wanting to discredit vital issues like climate change. Addressing global warming and reducing CO2 emissions is a critical challenge that needs to be tackled by society, based on scientific evidence rather than ignorance or personal agendas. Resilience of Enlightenment values. Even though anti-Enlightenment forces have emerged in recent times, democracy's inherent checks and balances impede the spread of authoritarianism. Populist parties in Europe have achieved limited success, and their support base comprises mostly older generations. Younger generations tend to lean more towards progressive, tolerant, and secular values. Over the past 100 years, reason and humanism have triumphed, and there is evidence to suggest this progress will persist. Although witnessing someone like Donald Trump, whom the author considers as antagonistic to Enlightenment values, becoming the U.S. president may be disheartening, it is reassuring to note that he lost the popular vote by a significant margin and maintains historically low approval ratings. Furthermore, democracy has built-in safeguards to protect against the excesses of authoritarian figures, evidenced by the justice system restraining Trump's overreaching actions. Similarly, in Europe, there has been anti-Enlightenment sentiment, but its impact might be short-lived. Populist parties endorsing nationalism, tribalism, and anti-cosmopolitanism have managed to secure only around 13% of votes. Their electoral gains correspond to their losses in legislative seats, with older populations being their primary support. Despite the Brexit vote's initial shock, only 29% of college-educated individuals supported it, demonstrating limited endorsement for opposing the world's cosmopolitan trend. Global youth poll results indicate a more progressive, tolerant, and secular orientation compared to older generations. When Gallup International's Global Index of Religiosity and Atheism recorded an average 9% decrease in self-identified religious individuals from 2005 to 2012 in countries like Poland, Turkey, and Russia. Consequently, with each new generation comes greater reliance on reason, science, and humanism for their values. While religion does not necessarily conflict with enlightenment, basing values on sacred texts' interpretations can hinder progress. Contrary to the media's negativity and critics' pessimistic outlooks, hard data tells a more optimistic story. Over the last century, reason and humanism have prevailed, and there is no indication that this trajectory will be interrupted. Today's youth, being more attuned to Enlightenment values, further reinforce this promise.
As we conclude our insightful exploration of Enlightenment Now, you'll have gained an improved understanding of the tremendous progress made since the dawn of the Enlightenment. With its themes of reason, science, humanism, and progress, the future of humanity has grown brighter and more rational. Overcoming adversities, global income growth, the rise of democracy, and reductions in violence attest to the sustained impact of the Enlightenment on human well-being. While challenges remain and the world continues to experience setbacks, the overall picture is clear. The values of the Enlightenment persevere, and the flame of progress continues to burn brightly for future generations.